Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to be looking at Misty Iris, the new quint from Dior. Despite the name, which is very country and western, so maybe by the end of it we'll all be singing along, this is an absolute corker of a palette, so watch on. And here is Misty Iris, part of the permanent collection, so it retails at £58 made in France. However, even though it doesn't say it on the website, on the back of the palette, as well as on the sort of, the more ordinary box, it does say limited edition. So we just need to bear that in mind if you're interested in it. And here are the swatches. Now you can see that we've got a really lovely soft pink metallic shade, and next to it there's a sort of a more kind of, I would say it's like a ballet slipper tone shade, also metallic, very creamy, and then a very nice kind of tobacco-y brown with what I kind of perceive to be the actual iris shade. Again, there's a bit of sheen to it, it's more of a satin, I would say. And then the really lovely standout shade, which is in the middle, and that's this kind of creamy, buttery shade, but it has got some sheen to it. It's not quite a metallic, I would say, but it's probably a satin with a bit more sheen to it, a satin sheeny shade. But I have to say, overall, there's more pigment than I have come to expect from Dior. So in some ways the texture feels different to what I've experienced latterly. So can you see the metallic sheen on the two pinky shades, the sort of the soft pink and then the ballet slipper shade in the middle, next to the lovely soft tobacco? How beautiful they are. There's real kind of dimension there. I'm not saying they're shifty, but there's definitely a dimensional quality to it. And then we've got the lovely soft mauve iris shade, lovely satin shade. And then this really beautiful, brightening, soft buttery shade. That's really lovely. The reason why I was drawn to this palette, I kind of was in two minds, because when we had the palette details leaked, and I think I said this on a video, I thought it didn't seem like a very kind of autumnal colour story, and so I wondered how that would go with what I wear and all that kind of stuff. However, having looked at it again, I did think, well, it's got two shades that may be similar to two of my absolute favourite singles from Dior. And one is Mitza, and the other one, I can never remember the name of it, is Rose Tulle. So 755 Rose Tulle and 658 Beige Mitza. Let me show you how they compare, because it may well be that you've got these in your collection and you enjoy them. It's probably relevant to see how they compare. So here we are. At the top here, we have Rose Tulle single, and this is Beige Mitza. So they are different in that the Rose Tulle, compared to the two pinky shades in the Misty Iris, actually looks sort of more beigey and slightly more peachy, not quite as cool. And then the Beige Mitza, can you see it's got much more metallic in it than the tobacco-y shade, what I'm calling the tobacco-y shade in the Dior. I'm just sort of moving my hand a little bit just so you can see the sheen on the Beige Mitza over here compared to the tobacco shade over here. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm giving a Harvard lecture pointing to complicated equations, but I'm really not. I mean, you do know I'm not capable of that. At any rate, I thought that was worth looking at. So this colour story is really very different and it's a lot cooler. Let's try it on. So I thought I would start with the tobacco shade, just to carve out the contour of the eye. And then what I really want to do, the colour I'm looking forward to using actually is the iris shade. I mean, not just because it's called Misty Iris. I think they've put Misty in there to give us that autumnal kind of, sense. But I am interested because with this kind of smoky tobacco colour, it should turn it into an autumnal colour, but maybe not. What's interesting is it's going on with a bit more sheen than I think it's swatched with, because it doesn't look, I don't know if you can see that. There's not that much kind of metallic to it when I sort of see it on the back of my hand, but actually on the eye, it does have, that's all right. I'm here for that. but it's just a bit more surprising. It's not quite as smoky matte that I thought it would be. It's interesting, isn't it? Because when we compared it to the Beige Mitza, it really did look matte. It's all comparisons. Anyway, this makes me think it's going to be more autumnal than I feared, which is good, because it will be lovely to have something to come back to and to sort of, when I say come back to, I mean sort of metaphorically come back to as a sort of an autumn shade. Okay, so I'm going in quite lightly. However, this is a bit of a revelation for me. There's quite a lot of pigment in this. Hooray! So that's good, because that, as you probably know, is my kind of bête noire with Dior. They seem to be a bit stingy on the old pigment. I know, yes, this is, you know, luxury makeup and all of that, but actually sometimes more is more, not just less is more. This is good though. I'm happy. Now, I'm going to try the iris with a fluffy brush and see if it kind of reads at all on the eyelid. I'm not sure it does. I'll just have a cheeky look. Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, I'm getting mauve. I am getting a lilac on there. And I do like lilac. And it's one of those colours that, if you see it, I think what I have found is it can be very punchy, which is great. But maybe there is an in-between, which is not too punchy and not too insipid, but somewhere in between. There may be a Goldilocks quality. Was it Goldilocks? Yes, it was Goldilocks. Okay, that's what that looks like. That is rather nice. I mean, look, I like these kind of shades anyway. I think, to be honest, there's probably not a shade that exists that I don't like and I wouldn't give a go to, but it's just in terms of wearability, I do find these kind of easy shades to wear. And look how easily that blended. That was no effort. I know that's what you would expect, but I am pointing it out. It's doing what you want it to, but it's actually, for me now already, it's doing more than I expected, because with Dior I tend to have low expectations in terms of pigment really, but this is better than expected. I'm going to use the middle shade. I keep saying it's buttery. You know, like when you get hand churned butter. I mean, I say that because once I bought it by accident and it was annoying because I was wanted to make a cake with it and it didn't perform the way I wanted it to. Because actually what you're meant to do is slather a good inch on a piece of bread and just snaffle it down, which is actually what I ended up doing. But anyway, it is that kind of high-end butter shade for your inner milkmaid. I don't have an inner milkmaid. All that business of squatting on a little stool and having a sort of a big beast. No, that's not for me. Also, I think you've got to get up quite early to milk a cow, and I'm not an early riser. So do you think I'm digressing? This probably counts as a digression. Anyway, back to the subject matter. Okay, so we've put this, oh dear, now I've missed my, this is what happens. Hang on, let's get a clean brush and tidy up already. There we go. Okay, so I've put the milkmaid shade in the corner. That's actually rather nice, and it sort of shows up more than I kind of expected it to. What do you think? Does it count as inspiring winking? I don't know. I mean, it's not very metallic. It's not really in your face, I think. But I think you can see I'm wearing it. Do you know what I mean? It's subtle, but not too subtle. Let's put a little bit more of the tobacco shade. And what I'll do is I'll put a little bit underneath as well. If I can find the right brush, yes. This is a Bobbi Brown ultra fine eyeliner. I bought this, it's probably over 10 years old. I don't even know whether they still make it. But what's good about it, can you see, it's flat. Let's put a little bit on underneath. Let's try putting on a little bit more of the iris. I'm going to use my finger and see how it reads when I use my finger, because I'm pleasantly surprised, obviously, that with my Refa, whatever it is, 13, it just kind of brushed on really nicely. But let's see what happens. Do we get a lot more? We get a bit more, but it's not. That's nice, because I'd rather, you know, I'd rather be using brushes. So, okay, I'll put a bit more of the milkmaid shade in, and I know I can use the pinky shades in the corner, but I just wanted to get two very different looks just using 3 of the shades, with the only common denominator really being the tobacco shade as kind of the shadow part. But I do like that. I really do. I think it's soft, but it is there. You can see it. I don't really want to put anything on the top from here because it's a little bit too shiny. What I might do is find a sort of a creamy shade, so I will be back. I mean, this is just personal preference. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Eye Sculpt palette that I kind of use almost every day, somewhere, somehow. But I'll just use a little bit of this shade here, which is this whole palette obviously is completely matte, which is why it's useful. So I'll just put a little bit here on the brow bone because I don't want to put sort of anything too shimmery up there. It's just, for me, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a bit aging, but I think also I'm, you know, having just come into the world, into the 1970s. I'm slightly sensitive. I don't really want to look like a 1970s ice skater, even though I'd love to be able to ice skate. Anyway, so that's one look. I will put mascara on at the end of both looks and we'll see both of them. Let's now try, just to remind you, the pinky shades, these two here. Let's sort of see what we can get out of those shades, because which one is it? This one. Sorry, when you kind of look at the palette like this, it's this one that's got a little bit more, that reads a little bit more lavender. So I would probably like to use that on the lid. So I'll go in again with the tobacco shade. If I do it this way, you'll be able to see. And I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to use a brush with the lavendery shade, but let's give it a go and see what happens. It does go on, actually. It's fine. This is a lovely soft look, this one, actually. And just for the sake of, you know, experimentation, I am just going to swipe my finger across and see what happens. Yeah, we do get a bit more, but it's fine with the brush. So, you know, it's not that I'm averse to using my fingers. It's just that, you know, it's another thing to wipe and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So if I can use a brush, that's kind of preferable. Also, there's the other thing that I tend to get it because I wear my nails a bit longer because my hands are so small and childlike. I can sometimes get stuff under my nails, which I don't like. That's what that looks like. You see, it blends really nicely. What I'll do is with my Refa 21, I will go into this top, that top shade there, and put that on the inner corner. Does that show up? It may be that I need to put a little bit of the setting spray on. It does show up. I think I'm going to try a little bit of the Urban Decay All Nighter on there, just to see if we get it, if it reads a little bit brighter. I've sprayed it. Let's. Yeah, that's better. For me, anyway. So you can really get a kind of a really good metallic finish, which you can see with the all-nighter. There it is there. If you kind of want to amp it up, or if your eyes are darker. I'm just going to put a little bit more of that lovely tobacco shade, which is really lovely, actually. I didn't think, I was kind of, when I saw this online, finally, I was kind of focusing on the lilacs and the pinks, but actually it's a very, very nice shade, this. It's funny because for me, the Dior singles, the quality, I've not had a bad experience with any of the singles. It just so happens that these two are my favourites. But in terms of the pigmentation, I just think they're fantastic. And I suppose partly some of my frustrations with the recent reformulation, yet again, of the Saint Couleurs range is that pigmentation is just not always there. They're not always as smooth as I kind of want them to be, whereas the singles really are. What I would say is with this quint, the quality is very much like the quality that I love in the singles. You know, they blend really well, the pigmentation is there, the colours are true, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't go patchy, and actually it just shows up on a medium skin, which actually I just don't think that they do that well unless you do a lot of prep beforehand. And yes, of course you can do that, but I mean, there's plenty of other brands where I don't have to do anything at all, so I don't see why it needs to be such a big deal. And as we know, they're hardly at the budget end of the spectrum. But these are going on really, really nicely. It feels like this formulation is an improvement on the previous formulation. So I suppose somehow that it's got better. That's what I would say. It's got better. I did have the original Mitza palette that they did, and I wasn't that impressed with the quality, I have to say. We've got one kind of more, I was going to say softer, but actually I've gone quite high with the tobacco-y shade. There's quite a lot of definition there. But then we've also got the iris shade there. The iris, sorry, not shade, the iris kind of look there. So that's much more mauvey, and this is kind of more pinky. Although, of course, the tobacco shade kind of blends in. It's a nice, soft kind of cashmere-y look. I know it's not the cashmere palette, but I'm saying it's that kind of cashmere soft look that I think in the autumn winter is going to be really easy to wear, and actually more relevant than I originally thought when I first saw this colour story, because you know, when you look at it you kind of think, well, isn't that spring, with a little bit of a kind of woody bark tone? But actually, that when it says misty, I'm not sure I would necessarily say it was misty when I look at it on my eyes, but I can see it's got that softness. It's not got the sort of the brightness that I would expect from a spring collection, as it were. There is a kind of more, it's not so much muted, but maybe misty is the word. Maybe we're back to Natasha Denona and her gloom, sort of understanding that it's to do with the patina, that you're kind of seeing it through misty eyes or cataracts or something. I don't want to put any eyeliner on, even though I think if one had a deep mauvey aubergine eyeliner, that would probably go very nicely. But I kind of want to keep this look soft, and I also want to stay within Dior and just stay within what this quint can give us. Yeah, now bear in mind I used the all-nighter for this shade on my inner corner, and I didn't use it there, so this one is still softer, but I think it suits it, to be honest with you. I really do. I mean, I'll put a little bit more on, but I don't think it needs more. I don't think it needs the emphasis on any too much brightness. It's still got that softness. I'm going to go away and put some mascara on, and I'll be back. So I've put mascara on. Let me bring you a bit closer so you can have a look. Now, I was umming and eyeing over adding eyeliner. I should tell you that I was going to put a little bit of the fig, the Charlotte Tilbury fig. That's what that looks like against the irisy shade. And I'll do that. But I kind of didn't want to put it on without showing you what these look like. So let me just show you first of all. So this is the mauvey irisy shade. And this is the pinks and ballet shoes kind of tone. And all I've done is put black mascara on and a bit of brown mascara on the lower lashes. I was in my local Space NK today, and they've now got Victoria Beckham, which was great because, you know, ordinarily that's just a trip to Selfridges into town for me. They had the tester, but they didn't have any stock of the new shimmering mauve Kajal. And that's actually the shade that I think would probably go really, really well with this. The only thing that I've got sort of not comparable, but, you know, that I could use, as I said, is the fig. I think it's a bit dark, but shall we try a bit? Should we try just a little bit? Let's try a little bit. I know I've got my mascara, and I'm really bad at putting eyeliner on after I've got mascara on. I've seen people do it and they're so neat and tidy, and I'm just not a neat and tidy kind of person, so please be forgiving. But let's just put a teeny tiny bit and see what happens. I just don't want it to go heavy. Have I made it heavy? I don't want it to be witchy, although it could be very handy. I often think, wouldn't it be lovely if people were sort of scared that I might turn them into, I don't know, rabbits or something, although that's quite cuddly. Maybe something like a hyena, maybe a sort of a creature that's not as beloved, even though hyenas are essential. Okay, so that's what that looks like. I think it's not that bad. It just changes it a bit, doesn't it? It makes it a bit more theatrical. And I think what this palette does really well is a grown-up softness without being insipid. So I don't think it needs that amount of pigment from Charlotte. That's kind of what I think. But maybe for an evening, or maybe, you know, depending on what, you know, depending on what look you want. But I think from my point of view, I think this is all about a grown-up softness that still has immensely great definition. And a kind of, this might be overkill, I don't know. I will pursue the Victoria Beckham Kajal because I do like that tone. But anyway, just to remind you what this looks like against the palette. What do you think? I don't know, are you tempted by this? I mean, remember, it's limited edition. So if you're going to go for it, you need to get your skates on. Your ice skates on, but not in a 1970s way. What I like is I think you can get two genuinely different looks, because there's a big difference between the iris shades and the two pinky shades. And we haven't even gone with just using a kind of very smoky version of this shade. I wouldn't say there's one and dones in these, but I'd say there's two and dones. Although, you know what? This one, actually, you probably could just smush it on with a little bit of eyeliner. But it's not technically a one and done the way the, you know, the beige Mitza is, or even the, for me anyway, the rose tulle is. But I think it's a really beautiful palette, and I'm surprised, and I have to say that to date, of all the Dior palettes that I've reviewed this year on my channel, and it's been 7 months or 6.5 months or something, this is my favourite, because I didn't have to work hard at all to get it on my eyelids, get it sort of to show and to blend. It was just really easy. And I think the colour story is very, very usable, as long as you like pinks and mauves. If you hate them, then this probably isn't going to be for you, because this shade still reads a light lavender. It's not a bright lavender, but it is a lavender shade, and this of course is very much a sort of a soft pink. Though as we saw, it's a cool light pink, not the way the rose tulle is in the single, which has got a little bit more warmth to it. So that is Misty Iris. Has this got you excited? Have you ordered it? Have you already got it? Or are you just not interested in it at all? What do you think of this look? I mean, it's not like we haven't got other things coming down that are not in the pipeline. I mean, it's not like we're all kind of crawling through the Kalahari Desert with a kind of, you know, scraggly beard and, you know, looking for water, although that's a slightly disturbing image for me, because I always try and make sure I'm freshly shaved before I see you. But, you know, we know Pat McGrath is kind of there in the horizon for Louis Vuitton, and there's a whole host of other stuff coming down the road, as you'll sort of find out in my next Will I Buy That video. There's just a lot of product. We're not starved. So let me know. I love hearing from you, as you know. Do subscribe if you haven't already. We know that the vast majority of people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So do subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.